Hi, I'm Mona. I'm 26. Let me ask you something. Have you ever told yourself, I really want to improve my English, and meant it with your whole heart, but then the day filled up, your energy thinned out, and nothing happened again? Maybe you woke up with good intentions. Maybe you thought, tonight I will finally study. Maybe you imagined yourself sitting down calmly, opening your notebook, listening to English, speaking a little, reviewing a few useful phrases, and ending the day with that satisfying feeling that you actually moved forward. But then life happened. Work pulled you in one direction. Messages pulled you in another. Your attention got scattered. Your mind grew crowded. The day moved faster than expected, and by the time evening arrived, you were not fresh and focused. You were drained, so you looked at your English again, not with excitement, but with heaviness. And maybe you thought, not today, I'm too busy. Then tomorrow came, and then another tomorrow. And slowly, the thing you cared about kept becoming the thing you postponed. That feeling can be deeply discouraging because English is not just another item on a list. For many learners, English is connected to confidence, opportunity, communication, work, travel, self-respect, and the future they want to build. So when English keeps getting pushed aside, it does not feel like a small delay. It feels personal. It feels like life is always winning and your growth is always waiting. If you know that feeling, I want to say something clearly. You are not weak, you are not lazy, and you are not the only person living this pattern. Many English learners do not lose consistency because they do not care. They lose consistency because they are trying to build routines that cannot survive real life. They build plans for ideal days. They wait for perfect energy. They expect themselves to study the way a machine would study. And when real life interrupts that fantasy, the whole routine collapses. That is what I want to talk about today, not how to become perfect, not how to build some beautiful, impossible plan. I want to show you how to stay consistent with English even when life gets busy. Because that is where real growth lives, not in perfect weeks. In imperfect weeks that still contain some honest contact with the language. First, I will tell you a personal story about how I used to lose momentum again and again whenever life became full. Then I will show you why busy seasons destroy so many English routines. After that, I will explain what consistent learners do differently, even when they do not have a perfect schedule. Then we will do a short reflective practice together. And at the end, I will give you a simple way to protect your English even on crowded days. I will use clear language, natural examples, and a calm, supportive style. Ready? Let's begin. For a long time, I misunderstood what consistency really meant. I thought consistency meant doing a lot. I thought it meant long study sessions, polished routines, and strong daily discipline that never bent under pressure. In my mind, a consistent learner was someone who always had time, someone organized, someone mentally sharp, someone who could sit down every day and give English a full hour, maybe two. I imagined clean desks, tidy notes, beautiful schedules, and a version of life with no interruptions. And because that image was living in my head, I kept building routines that looked serious but felt too heavy for ordinary life. On Sunday evenings, I often felt hopeful. I would say, this week will be different. I would write a full plan. Monday, listening. Tuesday, grammar. Wednesday, vocabulary. Thursday, speaking. Friday, reading, Saturday, shadowing, Sunday, review. Sometimes I made the plan even bigger, 45 minutes, 1 hour. A full study block, a rich session with multiple tasks. The routine looked impressive on paper. It looked disciplined. It looked like the kind of system a successful learner would follow. But real life did not care how beautiful the plan looked. Monday came and I came home tired. Tuesday came and something unexpected happened. Wednesday came and my mind was full. Thursday came and I thought, I'll make up for it tomorrow. Then tomorrow quietly turned into next week. That was the cycle, not because I did not care, because I cared so much that I built a routine too heavy to carry through ordinary life. And when the plan broke, I blamed myself. I said, why can't I stay consistent? I said, why do I always lose momentum? I said, maybe I just don't have enough discipline. But the deeper truth was not that I lacked desire. The deeper truth was that my method did not fit the life I was actually living. There was one week that changed the way I understood this problem. Nothing dramatic happened. That is exactly why the week mattered. It was simply one of those normal, busy weeks that so many adults know very well. Work felt full. Messages kept arriving. Responsibilities multiplied. My mind was stretched in many directions. There was no emergency, no big crisis, just ordinary life moving with heavy speed. On Monday, I told myself I would study at night. I did not. On Tuesday, I said I would do extra to make up for Monday. I did not. On Wednesday, I opened an English lesson, watched a few minutes, lost focus, and closed it. On Thursday, I thought maybe I'll start properly next week. By Friday evening, I felt disappointed, not because I had done nothing all week. I had done many things. I had worked. I had handled responsibilities. I had answered people. I had moved through the week like an adult. But the thing that mattered deeply to me, my English, kept becoming the thing I delayed. That feeling hurts. Because every delay felt like one more message from life saying, you don't really have room for this. That Friday, I sat down and looked at my notebook. My plan was still there. Neat, organized, impressive, and completely disconnected from reality. I stared at it and asked myself a more honest question. How do I stay connected to English when life is not calm, not on the perfect day, not on the free day, not on a highly motivated day, on a busy day? That question changed everything. Because once I asked it honestly, I could no longer pretend that the old model was working. I had to stop admiring ideal routines and start building a routine that could survive real life. Let's pause here and look at the real problem. Busy life does not destroy English progress by itself. The real danger is the way we respond to busyness. Many learners assume that when life gets busy, meaningful study is impossible, so they shift into all-or-nothing thinking. If I cannot do a full study session, I should do nothing. If I cannot focus deeply, it is not worth starting. If today is messy, today does not count. This is one of the biggest reasons consistency disappears. Not because learners are careless, because they define real practice too narrowly. When the definition of study is too heavy, busy days automatically become empty days. And when many empty days gather together, English begins to feel far away again. That is how momentum dies. Not in one dramatic moment, in many small moments where the learner quietly decides, this day does not count. But busy life is not unusual. Busy life is normal. Interruptions are normal. Mental fatigue is normal. Uneven energy is normal. So if your English routine only works when life is spacious and calm, your routine is weak by design. A strong routine is not the one that looks the best on paper. A strong routine is the one that survives real life. There is another reason people lose consistency when life gets busy. They wait for the right feeling. They want to feel ready, focused, clear, motivated, disciplined, but real life often gives us none of those things. Sometimes you are tired. Sometimes your brain feels crowded. Sometimes your body wants rest, not effort. Sometimes your emotional energy is low. If your routine depends on the right mood, you will break rhythm again and again. This does not mean mood does not matter. Of course it matters. It is easier to study when you feel fresh. But consistent learners learn something important. They stop asking, "Do I feel perfect for English right now?" They start asking, "What kind of English contact is possible in the state I am in?" That is a powerful shift, because it allows English to remain part of your life even when life is not giving you ideal conditions. And that is what consistency really means. Not perfection. Continuation. One thing people do not talk about enough is the emotional burden of inconsistency. When English keeps moving to the bottom of your list, it does not stay neutral. It gathers emotional weight. It becomes connected to guilt, to disappointment, to self-criticism, to the feeling that you are always behind. At first, you miss a day, then two, then a week. And when you finally think about English again, you do not feel light curiosity. You feel pressure. You think about the lesson you did not finish, the vocabulary you did not review, the promises you did not keep. This is dangerous. Because once English starts feeling like a source of shame, the mind begins protecting itself by staying away from it. That is how inconsistency becomes a cycle. You avoid English because you feel bad, then you feel worse because you avoided it. Then English feels even heavier the next time. This is why your method must not only teach you language, it must also protect the emotional relationship you have with the language. Because if English always feels like failure, you will keep drifting away from it. Consistent learners are not always the most talented. They are often the ones who understand something simpler and more powerful. They understand that consistency is not built by doing the maximum. It is built by preserving contact. They understand that a small, honest session on a crowded day is more valuable than a perfect imaginary session that never happens. They understand that real routines must fit real life. They understand that missing one day is not the end. They understand that outcome matters more than drama. And perhaps most importantly, they understand that busy seasons are not interruptions to the journey. Busy seasons are part of the journey. So they do not build only for ideal weeks. They build for messy weeks too. That is why their English stays alive, not because their life is easier, because their method is wiser. Once I understood this, I changed the question I was asking. I stopped asking, how can I create the perfect English schedule? I started asking, how can I keep English present even when life is crowded? That question softened something inside me. It made me more realistic. It made me more strategic. It made me less obsessed with impressive study sessions and more respectful of steady contact. I realized that my real goal was not to win one beautiful day of study. My real goal was to prevent English from disappearing from my life during busy seasons. That is different. And once I saw that clearly, I started building around continuity, not intensity. That changed everything. Because when your goal becomes continuity, you stop measuring practice only by length. You begin measuring it by repeatability. Can I still do this on a busy Tuesday? Can I still touch English when my mind feels crowded? Can I still get back on track after a disrupted day? Those became the more important questions. Let's define it clearly. Staying consistent with English does not mean doing the same long session every single day. It does not mean feeling motivated every day. It does not mean never missing a day. It does not mean moving through life with perfect discipline and endless energy. Staying consistent means English keeps happening in your life even when conditions are imperfect. That is the real definition. Some days the contact may be longer. Some days are shorter. Some days are stronger. Some days are lighter. But the connection is not lost. That is why I say consistency is not rigidity. It is a rhythm, and rhythm is easier to protect than perfection. A fragile routine only works when life is smooth. A strong routine works even when life is uneven. A fragile routine depends on ideal time, ideal focus, ideal mood. A strong routine has versions: a full version for good days, a lighter version for busy days, a rescue version for tired days. This matters because many learners only build one version of their routine. And when life stops supporting that version, the whole system collapses. But if you build your English routine with layers, you can protect continuity. For example, your full version might be 30 or 40 minutes. Your lighter version might be 15. Your rescue version might be 5 minutes of listening and 2 sentences spoken aloud. That does not sound glamorous, but it is wise because it allows English to remain alive. And language grows better in a living system than in a dead perfect plan. Now let's get practical. When life gets busy, do not ask, "Can I do everything?" Ask, "What is the smallest version of contact I can protect today?" That question is powerful. Here are some examples. A. Listen to a short English audio while walking or making tea. B. Repeat 3 useful sentences aloud. C. Read one short paragraph and summarize it in your own words. D. Review 5 vocabulary words and use each in a sentence. E. Answer one question in English about your day. F. Shadow 1 minute of audio several times. G. Read 1 page of a graded reader before bed. H. Watch a short clip and say the main idea aloud. These actions may look modest. That is fine. Their job is not to impress anyone. Their job is to keep English alive in your real life. And when life becomes calmer again, the bridge is still there. That is the victory. I remember one evening very clearly. I was exhausted, not slightly tired, deeply tired. My mind felt dull, my shoulders were heavy, my attention was weak. The old version of me would have looked at that state and said, "No chance, today is ruined." But by then, I was trying to build a different relationship with consistency. So instead of asking whether I could do a full session, I asked what contact was still possible. The answer was small: 5 minutes of listening, 2 repeated lines, 1 short spoken reflection. That was all. And when I finished, I noticed something important. I did not feel guilty. I felt relieved because English had not disappeared that day. That moment taught me something I have never forgotten. A short session on a busy day is not a weak version of learning. It is a strong act of protection. You are protecting the relationship. You are protecting the rhythm. You are protecting the identity of someone who still shows up. That matters far more than people realize. Many learners admire intensity. A long session looks serious. A big study plan looks impressive. A huge push feels powerful for one day. But when life gets busy, intensity often collapses faster than consistency. Intensity is loud. Consistency is steady. Intensity can create excitement. Consistency creates trust. Intensity may impress you in one moment. Consistency changes who you become over time. This is why, during busy seasons, you must stop worshiping intensity. Busy seasons are not the time to prove how much you can do. They are the time to protect the habit of result. That is what carries you through. There is something deeper happening here too. Every time life gets busy and you still keep some contact with English, you are reinforcing an identity, not the identity of someone perfect, the identity of someone who's reliable, someone who tries, someone who does not disappear completely, someone who knows how to adapt without giving up. And that identity is incredibly valuable because identity affects behavior. When you see yourself as someone who always loses momentum, your routine becomes weaker. But when you start seeing yourself as someone who can stay connected even during difficult weeks, your behavior changes. You become more patient, more flexible, more resilient. That is one reason consistency matters so much. It is not only about skill, it is about the kind of learner you are becoming. There is another trap busy learners fall into. They miss a few days, then try to catch up in one huge session. That often backfires. Because the huge catch-up session feels heavy, exhausting, and emotionally charged. Then English becomes linked with pressure again, and after that, the learner disappears for several more days. This is a very common cycle. Miss, feel guilty, try to do too much, you feel overwhelmed. Disappear again. That is why when life gets busy, the goal should not be catching up. The goal should be to come back simply and steadily. No drama, no punishment, no emotional speech about failure. Just start all over. That skill matters more than most people think. Real long-term growth is often built by people who know how to restart quickly and keep going. If your life is full, here is a much smarter way to think. Do not try to force English into the biggest space available. Anchor English to spaces that already exist. After breakfast, during lunch, after making tea before bed, after work before touching your phone too long, after sitting at your desk, after brushing your teeth. When a habit connects to an existing moment, it becomes easier to remember and easier to protect. Also, choose one simple activity type for a few days at a time. Do not make every session complicated. Maybe this week is listening and repeating. Maybe next week is short story summaries. Maybe the week after that is vocabulary and context. Simplicity helps the habit survive. When life is busy, complexity becomes expensive. Clarity becomes precious. Now let's do a short reflective practice together. Please repeat after me. Busy life does not mean I must lose English. A short session still counts. A tired day still counts. A messy day still counts. I do not need perfection. I need continuity. I can protect my rhythm. I can make a quick comeback. I can keep English alive in my life. Very good. Now answer these questions out loud if you can. What usually makes your English disappear when life gets busy? What time of day gives you the best chance of a short session? What is your lightest possible version of English practice? What do you do when you miss a day? What would help you come back more easily this week? You do not need long answers. One or two honest sentences are enough. The purpose is not performance. The purpose is awareness. Here are 5 common mistakes busy learners make when they are trying to stay consistent with English. A. They define study too heavily, so busy days automatically become empty days. B. They wait for the right mood instead of building a routine that can survive low-energy moments. C. They disappear completely after missing 1 or 2 days. D. They try to make up for lost time with a giant session instead of easing back in. E. They judge themselves so harshly that English starts feeling emotionally heavy. If you recognize yourself in these, do not feel ashamed. This is not proof that you are failing forever. It is simply a chance to become wiser. A wiser learner builds for reality. A wiser learner respects energy. A wiser learner values rhythm. A wiser learner knows that continuity beats drama. When life feels full, I like a very simple structure. Minute 1 to 5, listen. Use a short audio, video clip, or story segment. Minute 6 to 10, repeat. Say useful lines aloud, shadow the speaker. Repeat slowly and clearly. Minute 11 to 15, produce, answer one question, summarize the clip, speak about your day using 1 or 2 useful ideas. If life feels even busier than that, shorten it. 3 minutes of listening, 2 minutes of repeating, 1 sentence of output, that still counts. Why does this structure work? Because first the brain receives English, then the voice touches English. Then the mind creates English. That sequence keeps the language alive in multiple ways even when time is limited. Once I stopped treating my busy life like an enemy and started designing my routine around it, something changed emotionally. English began to feel less heavy, less like a test, less like proof that I was behind, more like a companion I could still meet, even in modest ways. And because English felt lighter, it became easier to come back to it. That is a highly important lesson. You do not stay consistent by attacking yourself harder. You stay consistent by making the relationship sustainable. Once English feels more human, more flexible, and more possible, it becomes much easier to keep it in your life. That change is not only practical, it is emotional. And emotional changes often decide whether a routine survives. Let's answer the big question directly. Why does this matter so much? Because staying consistent with English during busy seasons builds more than skill. It builds trust. Trust that you can begin again. Trust that you can adapt. Trust that you do not need a perfect life to keep growing. It builds confidence too, not the loud kind, not fake confidence. Quiet confidence. The kind that says, even when life is full, I know how to keep moving. It also builds stability. When English remains present in your life during busy seasons, you do not have to restart from zero every time life becomes calmer. The bridge remains. The language stays warm. Your voice stays in contact with it. That is an enormous advantage. If your life feels busy right now, I want to tell you something honestly. Maybe the answer is not waiting for more time. Maybe the answer is not a more beautiful schedule. Maybe the answer is not more pressure. Maybe the answer is a gentler, wiser definition of consistency. A definition that allows real life to exist. A definition that respects ordinary days. A definition that says English still belongs in your life even when the day is crowded. You do not need to win every day in a dramatic way. You need to protect the relationship. Touch the language, hear it, say something, read something. Stay connected. That is how consistency survives. Not through perfection, through adaptation. One day you may look back and notice something surprising. The weeks that once used to erase your English no longer erase it. Busy life is still busy. But English is still there, not because life became easier, because your method became wiser. And sometimes, wisdom is what turns a fragile habit into a lasting one. If this lesson helped you today, please subscribe to Mona English Café and turn on the bell so you never miss your daily English dose. If you enjoyed this video, give it a like so I know you want more lessons like this, and leave a comment below telling me what English topic, real-life situation, or speaking struggle you want Mona to talk about next. Your idea could become the next video. Keep going, keep practicing, and remember, your English can grow step by step. See you in the next lesson.